And we are live here on the Talking Rife podcast. What a beautiful Tuesday evening, and what a show we have for you guys here tonight. I did a video on this earlier. Now, I didn't post it to Facebook, but I did post it to my TikTok, and it was shared around. It's been doing very well. It was a video that caught a lot of traction. And what it was I had just posted a screenshot. Basically, it was an article talking about how RFK Jr. had found during an investigation that over 100 members of Congress were being paid by big pharmaceutical companies. And that's pretty much what the show's going to be about tonight. Like I want to talk about why Rife machines are being suppressed. I want to talk about why it's so hard to find research about them. Why have they not been developed to the point of being able to be used to cure cancer and diseases and almost everything and anything? And, all the way back to the 1920s with Dr. Rife and the original Rife machine that did cure 14 terminally ill cancer patients with zero side effects and zero traceable amounts of cancer. And we're going to dive into all of that tonight. The other thing I wanted to kind of talk about on lightly, these are going to be the two big headlines, was I just saw where a doctor had been arrested for falsely diagnosing like thousands, it might have been tens of thousands, but it was like thousands of patients with cancer. So basically, the patient wouldn't have cancer. And they would go under a series of tests and x-rays and MRIs or whatever else. And she would be like, hey, you have cancer. You need to start these cancer treatments. And she was paid millions by these companies that manufacture different and various cancer treatments. And you can look that up. I don't have the article right here in front of me. I meant to pull it up. I've kind of been running on limited bandwidth here lately. We got all kinds of things going on with construction. We got Rife stuff going on, plus our own personal family stuff going on. We got some big news coming up here soon. Obviously, the really big news is we just had our 20-week ultrasound, and we are pregnant, and we had a 20-week ultrasound, and I'm having a little boy. So a lot of big things going on in the electromedics family world. A lot of big things going on in our household. We are very excited. We have a baby girl at 18 months old, and her now little baby brother is due here in middle of February. And so we're very excited. We've had a bunch of stuff going on. Plus we're preparing for fall. Our little girl's first like real Halloween that she's going to get to experience and know. So it's big things, not to mention, suffering with the everyday, hysteria of life of trying to make enough money to afford bills and groceries in a world that only the super wealthy elite can seem to survive in. You may think I'm different than you, but the reality being is that, I struggle to afford to be able to make oil changes on time for my car or to buy all 4 tires at the same time. I'm no different than any other middle-class American just struggling to get by. And it's a shame that our politicians And the super wealthy elite are in control of the trade deal, the taxes, the tariffs, the interest rates, and everything else that only bring misery and hardship and struggle to middle class families. I bet if middle class families were overseeing the interest rates, the taxes, the tariffs, the regulations, the fines, the fees, the penalties, it would look a lot different. But the people who, don't think twice about spending $250,000 on a private jet ride with steak and lobster to some conference where they talk about the middle class being too greedy, it doesn't mean a lot to them. They don't care what interest rates are. They don't care how expensive groceries are. They don't care how expensive gas is because it's not real to them. They've never lived in a place in America, in a middle class family, where they know what it's like to struggle to afford an oil change on time, or to buy all 4 tires for your vehicle at once when it needs it, or to be able to choose between, oh, well, we can't have ground beef and bacon. We can only choose one or the other because we don't have the money to afford it. These people live in lives of drinking water that is beyond healthy and purified. They would not even touch the garbage that comes out of the kitchen faucet that you and I and everybody else have to just drink and deal with. All of the chemicals, the fluoride, the hydrofluorosilicic acid, the chlorine, everything else, they would not even take a shower in it. They wouldn't use it to rinse off their car. And it's what we drink. The food that you live on daily, they wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole. They wouldn't go near it. They eat organic steak and ribs from bison and elk and caribou. Most of you don't even probably know what that even tastes like unless you hunt it yourself. These people don't know what it means to earn a living, to struggle. And I know that there is an entire mob of people that are willing to come running at me in defiance and defense of all these billionaires. Of like, oh, well, they built this and that, and they have a right to earn and keep what they made. Yeah, I do believe that you have a right to build. You have a right to earn. And you is your property, and that only you have a right to that property when you earn it fairly. I also believe that there is such thing of having so much money that when you start out, you can create a monopoly system on the market, drive your competitors that give you real service, real wholesome products and goods and services out, and you can bankrupt them. And then you can sell garbage and poison with no customer service and no nothing, with no competition, because all you had to do was have enough money to go to the politician to campaign and fundraise for them to pass a regulation that you and your lawyers wrote that keep anybody from being able to compete against you. So I don't believe 100% in unlimited of like, oh, you get to keep everything you made. Okay, well, did you steal it or did you earn it? Because the bricklayer and the road paver and the roofer and the framer, the accountant, they put in 50 hours a week, nonstop, working behind a desk with a tool belt, in the hot sun, you name it. They earned their money. You can't say that you earned your hundreds of millions of dollars when all you had to do was front several 100,000 or several million to your local politician or to buy out your local competitors, right? You move into a town like Walmart did. Walmart has a ton of money. They move into a small area. There would be several local grocery stores. All right, well, they would go in and they would offer to buy their businesses. Most of them would sell. Those that didn't, the Walmart would get built anyways. And then Walmart could sell goods at cost, which means they didn't make any money. Most of the times they went in the red because of it. They didn't even break even. And then when everybody would go to Walmart instead of the one lasting local grocery store, well, eventually that grocery store has to close down because everybody just chose the cheaper value at Walmart. And then Walmart gets to raise its prices to whatever it wants because it no longer has any competition. That's called creating a monopoly on a market. That's not earning. That's not being competitive. That's not free market. That is not capitalism. That is corporatism. You created a monopoly on the market and you stole from your consumers. And you stole from your employees. If you have a market, if you have a monopoly on the market of selling, you have a monopoly on the market of employment. If there's nowhere else for someone to go get a job, like, oh, well, I'm a cashier at a local grocery shop, or I'm a bagger, or I'm a stalker, whatever it is. I stock food, not a stalker who stalks you. No, like I stock food at the grocery store. Well, guess what? None of the local ones exist anymore. All of them were paying $15 an hour. Now you got to go to Walmart. They pay $8.25, right? Because by law, they only have to pay you $6.15 or $7.25, whatever the minimum wage is now. That was set by, again, people who make millions and millions of dollars doing nothing at all. All they do is leverage out to different people, create policy, create regulation, create backdoor deal trades. They make multi-million dollars a year. Millions and millions and millions. Like paying $10 an egg is not real to them. They don't know what that even means. They don't know what the difference is of paying $10 and $15 for a carton of eggs and paying $2 to $3 for a carton of eggs. They don't know the difference between paying $5 for a gallon of gas and paying $1 for a gallon of gas. It's not real to them. They've never lived in that kind of situation. They call themselves American, but they've never lived an American life. We all have. We all deal with that on a day-to-day basis. We are burdened by the lawmakers and the elites that set the cost of living in this country. They've never worked for an hourly wage. And I know there's the tons of people that are out there waiting and willing to defend Taylor Swift becoming the first woman billionaire and Jeff Bezos, who started his company in his garage. Trust me, I know y'all are out there, and I can tell you right now, Taylor Swift did not go the way everybody thinks it did. I worked the Taylor Swift tour back in 2018, the Reputation tour. I worked at it as part of the personal security detail. I was a part of operations and setting up the facial recognition system they had on that tour. And I can tell you right now that bottom line is Taylor Swift is a slightly above average singer. Her lead guitarist that has been with her since the dawn of her band is the one who writes all of her music and all of her lyrics. And her father owned a multi-million-dollar, possibly more, dollar trucking company called Swift Trucking. And he was a marketing genius. He was able to market his daughter, who is a slightly above average singer, into this role of fame and making billions of dollars. That's how that went. She wasn't no Beethoven. But everybody wants to pretend that she is. She don't even write her own songs. She doesn't write the lyrics or the music. She helps. But all of y'all look at her like she's Michelangelo and created the next great thing on earth. And it's like, no, she hasn't, and she's not, but she's marketed very well. Jeff Bezos is a whole nother story. I'm not going down that rabbit hole. I've been off on my rant. We are middle-class Americans struggling to live in a world that elite, powerful corporate interest groups whose money isn't even real to them set up. And it's unsustainable. They have created a system that relies on infinite growth, but we have finite resources. And that, a lot of you may not know what that means, and that's okay. What it means is our resources are limited, but the economy system we have set up is based on unlimited growth, which means we'll run out of resources. And every year, the margin between the super wealthy elite and the middle class grows. And it gets further and further and further away. And guess who sets policy? Guess who decides how much groceries cost? Guess who decides how much gas costs? Guess who decides the interest rates? Guess who decides how much license fees, registration, tags for your car, hunting license, fishing license, all of the regulations you have to pay. Guess who sets the cost of those? Guess who gets to endorse what regulations are set forth or not? In Alabama, you can go hike a trail. It costs you nothing. If you go all the way to Maine and through parts of New York, guess what? You have to buy a permit just to walk a trail. If you don't believe me, look it up. Try to hike the Appalachian Trail without getting your permit. They will arrest you and they will fine you. Middle class Americans pay it all forth. The wealthy elite set forth how much we pay, and it's nothing to them. They're worried about buying their fifth multi-million-dollar lake house and having their boat lift and boathouse installed on time and underpaying the contractor that's doing it. They're not worried about, oh man, like we can't afford the organic bananas anymore. We have to eat regular bananas with pesticides all over them. It's just a different world that we live in, that we grow up in, but we allow these people to set the policies for us. Well, there's no difference with Rife machines and the healing technology that is reserved for nobody but the super wealthy elite. I, Hunter Samacool, with Electromedics, have designed a real Rife machine with the Rife family. That's right. I worked with a member of the Rife family. He had access to the surviving research that Dr. Royal Rife used to build the first Rife machine, and I build Rife machines that are affordable for the middle class. You want to see an example of a Rife machine that's in the same class as the Electromedics clinical grade Rife machine, which is the one you can see right here behind me and in the top corner views of my camera right there. Those are $5,800. The ones from my competitors are $17,000. And they still do not hit as hard as the Electromedics ones. $17,000 is reserved for only the super wealthy elite to have access to that healing technology. I, Hunter Samacool, who have under unlimited ridicule, condemnation, and demonization, build them for $5,800. That person, my competitors, didn't even work with the Rife family. I worked with the Rife family, a member of the Rife family, who also developed Rife machines. We developed Rife machines, built Rife machines together before we went our separate ways. I decided to go my separate way and start building my own Rife machines based off of that research. And today, everybody in every corner wants to attack me. And all I'm trying to do is bring technology that's only been reserved for the super wealthy elite and bring it to the middle class to try to help everybody. Why is it not available to everybody? Why do insurance companies not want to pay for it? Why can you not buy it in the shelves at Walmart for severely reduced rates? Well, I'll tell you why right now. And it's the RFK finds 100 members of Congress being paid by Big Pharma. Who do you think they favor when they pass regulation? Who do you think writes the bills? Do you think Obamacare wrote the ACA? That's the Affordable Care Act. You think he wrote it? Or you think insurance companies wrote it? Because it's documented. If you go to whitehouse.gov, you can actually see the author of the ACA. It was written by insurance companies. Insurance companies' lawyers wrote that. Look at some of the biggest contributors to Obama's fundraiser and his campaign. And it's going to be no different here when you find a RFK, Robert Kennedy. He's the health secretary for the administration, Trump administration. And he's been doing investigations. And he finds during an investigation that over 100 members of Congress are being paid by big pharma, big pharmaceutical companies, people who produce super addictive medications. And then they campaign to doctors, or they campaign to the educational institutes that doctors go to teach doctors to prescribe their medication to patients for various ailments. And the members of Congress are the ones who get it past the FDA. They're the ones who get it past all the regulations. They're the ones who get it passed for insurance companies to pay for it. Why wouldn't our government or healthcare or doctors or modern medical facilities want to push and further develop a machine that has the capability and the versatility to help almost an unlimited amount of ailments and sickness? It could be developed to the point that it cures everything and anything, almost everything and anything. And instead, it's throttled, it's condemned, it's suppressed. And then I have everybody from Silicon Valley to Facebook server farms and social media trolling farms everywhere trying to make sure that anything that is spoke about the technology is just demonized. It's just nothing but hate and doubt and ridicule, all from people who have never tried it, never seen it, never built one themselves, nothing. Never seen anybody who used it and what their results were. But they have no problem pushing some random medication that has 30 symptoms that are worse than what the medication is supposed to treat in the first place. I know y'all see them all the time on commercials. When you're like, oh, good God, like, you know, the 30 symptoms are worse than, I'll just deal with the original cause and not worry about the medication. But how does it make it a commercial? How do insurance companies pay for it? How is it approved through FDA and the CDC and everything else? How has it become an acceptable method of treating an ailment? Well, when you're paying hundreds of members of Congress to pass your legislation to get you through the red tape. See, Hunter, at Electromedics, we don't do that. We don't even have the option to do that. We don't get to pay a bunch of people in government to push our devices through the red tape to the insurance companies and to the commercials on mainstream media. We're here as a grassroots movement, an organization that just wants to help people because we've seen it help so many people. And we're like, man, we can't stop. We got to get this to the next person. We got to try again. Even though the next person is the person who's mocking us, we sit there like Charlie Kirk and we're like, hey, man, I understand that, you don't understand it. I understand that you may be apprehensive towards it. But hey, why don't you try it? There's no risk. There's no side effects. Here, try it for 30 days. Money back guarantee. Try it. You don't like it, just send it back to us. A lot of people in the beginning, when we were first starting up, we would just send them. The people would reach out to us. They would have very severe conditions and things like that. And we would just send them a machine and be like, hey, try it for 30 days. If you don't like it, send it back to us. And out of all the machines we sent to people, only one ever came back to us. When we would follow up with them. That's what we do at Electromedics. We follow up with you. We don't just throw you a machine and be like, good luck. No, we keep up with you every 3 days. Maybe we don't want to annoy you, so eventually it might be one every week, every other week. Just depending on how far you come, how well you understand the machine, and how, quickly you pick up using the machine. Depends on how much we'll reach out, depending on the schedule we set for you. Sometimes we set you a 7-day schedule. Sometimes we set you a 3-week schedule. And we're like, hey, you having any trouble with the machine? How are you feeling? And we walk people through it. And by the end of the 30 days, 100% of the people were like, well, what do you think? Are you wanting to keep it or are you wanting to send it back? And they'd be like, oh no, you can't take the machine from me. Like 100% of the time, other than one time, they're like, like hands down, like we're keeping the machine. Not just like, oh yeah, no, we liked it. I think we will buy it. No, it was like, hey, you can't take this back from my family. This has changed our lives. That's usually the response we get. And yet I stand here in a world where I can't get insurance companies to do anything but laugh at me. I can't get big corporations, doctors. Now that's a different stance. Doctors, surgeons, stem cell researchers, chiropractors, practitioners, nurse practitioners, you name it. They're always the biggest people to open. I'm sorry, they're always the people with the biggest ears to open up to me. Not like physically have the biggest ears. No, like they listen intently when I come to talk about it. When I tell them the science behind it, when I tell them how it was researched, when I tell them about the testimonials and the other people using it, they stand there, look me in the eyes, and they listen. They listen intently. Because they know this about the medical world. They know people use this under the table. They know people use it over the table. They know that they've heard the stories. They see different orthopedic surgeons and doctors and stem cell researchers, and everybody uses some form of this. And they know that it's taken off. They know that it's getting bigger. And they want to be a part of that side of history. They've done the research. They've been trained. They know the indoctrination by big pharmaceuticals. See, that's the thing, is you don't. Their soldiers know it. Soldiers know the corruption. All of our soldiers, American lives that we sent over there to the Middle East, the real door kickers, not the guys that walked around with a tank, went back to the base and drank. I mean, your real people. Gone to earn 50 plus days out of the year, flying into parts of the world we're not even supposed to be in, kicking down doors, getting in a gunfight every deployment. Not once a deployment, every day of a deployment. They know the corruption. They know how bad it is. They see through it. Even if they want to believe a greater good's there, they know the evil and the damage isn't worth it. And then they come back, and then they're sitting at a group around the table with other guys just like them trying to work through it. And then people like me are there trying to help, trying to find a thing, a device, a schedule, a therapy that can help them recover their lives that evil and greed stole. Not their evil and greed, the evil and greed that tricked them to make them believe that they were going to do something for the greater good. That meant doing some of the greatest evil on earth that messes you up here unrepairably. Once again, dictated by people that have never been there themselves. I'm going to get off of the military and the war thing. Very passionate about that, and I know I will go down a rabbit hole. So, the main thing we're sticking to here tonight is RFK finds over 100 members of Congress. Now, you have to understand, How many members of Congress are there? He's talking about the House of Representatives. You know, there's over 400 in the House of Representatives, made up by different Democrats and Republicans, very few in the libertarian movement. And I'm not saying which side or anything like that. To my knowledge, that I don't know, and that hasn't even been released yet. I'm just speaking to the simple fact that 100, so almost a quarter, probably more than that, right? That's just what he found. Probably a lot more than that. So a quarter of our House of Representatives, probably much more, are being influenced by Big Pharma. Now, Big Pharma is a company, an industry, and the bottom line is big companies like that, their goal is to survive, is to make money. The person at the top of all of these big industries, they have one goal in mind: money and power. More money and power. They have all the money and power in the world. And what do they want? They want a little bit more. A little bit more. There's not a single person sitting at the top of any Fortune 500 company that wants what's best for the people or their customer base. Regardless of what a lot of you may think or have been led to believe, I am sorry, there's not a single one. And even if they do care about that, even if they do care about providing a quality service, they do care about what's best for their community or their countrymen or their customer base, I guarantee you they do not care about it more than profit. They do not care about it more than the hair on their chinny chin chin. And they cannot fathom living the disgusting, impoverished life of a middle-class American. The day you talk about them losing one of their 7 private jets, they tremble. And they would screw over anybody, their own family, their own children, in order to keep it. And you better believe if they would do that to their own children, their own family, they certainly do not care about what's best for their countrymen or their customer base or their communities or neighbors. A lot of people don't know this. That comes out of sacrifice, not a generosity. You want to truly say you care about your country, you want to truly say you care about your neighbor or your community or even your family, it comes at sacrifice, not at generosity. Which means you are never in a point of life that you are so generous that your generosity means care. Care only comes in a form of sacrifice, which means you took something from yourself. You took something from your family, your household, and you gave it to somebody else. Which means, hey, as a Fortune 500 CEO, instead of buying my 7th multi-million-dollar vacation home, instead of buying my 11th Bugatti or my 2nd yacht, I am choosing to lose those profits for better practices so that my customer base can have healthier food, healthier products, better customer service, more sustainable practices. Which means instead of raping the land to manufacture our products and sell them, I am going to put money back into regenerative farming or process that uses less water, less materials, less resources. You want to know how bad it is? All you got to do is look beneath the veil. There was an article going around. It got posted a little bit to mainstream media. It was mostly swept under the rug. But the state of Florida had to sue the city of Atlanta and the state of Georgia, because Atlanta was using so much water, there was none left for Florida farmers. Once the water got down to Florida, there was none left. It was drying up because of the hundreds of billions of gallons that the city of Atlanta was using. State of Florida had to sue the city of Atlanta and the state of Georgia. They won the case. The state of Georgia and the city of Atlanta had to pay the reparations to all the farmers and agricultural lives they destroyed by using so much water. There was none left to water the food. I don't need to tell you how important that is. All right? When you use so much water building electric cars and running the CDC in the largest airport in the country, that there's none left to grow the freaking food in Florida, which one do you think you need the most? We live in a world where most people will start to argue for Atlanta and Georgia. Well, the water gets to us first. We need our electric cars and our vaccines that dumb people down and leave them with handicaps. And our airport with its multiple smoking sections. All the people that got to travel everywhere to do things. That's way more important than having fresh vegetables and ground beef in our grocery stores. Well, I'm going to tell you right now, general rule of survival is the rule of 3. 3 minutes without air, 3 hours without shelter, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. That's the general rule of 3 if you find yourself isolated, stuck out in the middle of the wilderness or on a deserted island or in the icy caps of a mountain. That's generally what you got to look for to survive. Nowhere in the rule of survival does it talk about taking business trips and planes and electric cars or anything else, or making up poisonous vaccines. But that's what all the water was being used for. Another great example of that was the almond milk farms. You know, the amount of water being used to produce almond milk is catastrophic to the environment. It was tens of thousands of times more water to produce almond milk than to produce normal cow milk. And that's what I mean by infinite growth in a finite system. Is nobody cared about how much water it took, how much land it took, how much resources it took. The only thing that mattered was that you were able to create growth from it. Well, we can create jobs and we can create sales, and all we need is some marketing person to somehow convince people that, hey, like, you're allergic to regular milk, you're lactose intolerant, and you just need to buy milk that we made from almonds. And everything's all better. You use it your cereal, your coffee, and everything else. And it was easy as that. And they created profit from it. The true root of all evil, creating profit. It's not money. It's just the idea of money. Creating profit. Because when you try to create profit, the first people you take it from is your labor. You're always going to be overworked and understaffed. So you're stealing money from someone who should be able to come in and give a reasonable amount of time and effort in a job and make a reasonable living wage. Well, today's world in America, generally, you're going to come into work You're going to be asked to do way more than what is realistically possible for a human being to sustain for a very long time. And then you're going to be paid a wage that you can't even afford normal cost of living. And I don't care what anybody says. You think you can afford normal cost of living? The average median home in the United States is listed at over $400,000. I would love to hear of how many middle class families can afford. I think it was $460,000 is the average price of a median home in the United States. How many of you can afford that? How many median average workers in the middle class, upper middle class, lower middle class can afford $460,000 at today's interest rates? They're pricing you out of existence. They will take you to a job and make you work overtime and to death. Work in an environment where you're overworked and understaffed, not just one or the other. Not just like, hey, you got full staff, but there's a lot of work on the board. No, there's a lot of work on the board. You have to get it done, and you're down 3 guys or women, down 3 people. That's the reality of the workforce. And then on top of that, we are going to underpay you. We're not going to pay you a livable wage. So a company like that to create profits, the first thing they steal from is their employees. The second thing they steal from is their customer base. I'm like, hey, we're going to sell you shoddy products that are made with some form of poison or us cutting corners or this, that, or the other. You want a great example of that is beef, ground beef today. Don't buy the stuff that's pink in the grocery stores. That's a great example of that. And I'm not even going to go into that. Look at why ground beef is pink. Because if you buy from a local farmer, ground beef is brown. It's supposed to be brown. Look at why ground beef is pink in the grocery stores. And when you're shopping in the grocery store for ground beef, look at the packages that are brown. They're going to be on the top shelf with different labels that say things like local farmed, grass-fed. Pick them up. Look at the color difference. That's the stuff you need to be buying. And I'll let you do your own research on that. It is a very big deal. You should definitely never eat pink ground beef from the grocery store. That is how they steal from their customer base. So now they're still in profit. Again, profit is the root of all evil. They're still in profit from their employees. They're still in profit from their customers. The next way they steal profit is from their competitors, because they don't compete in the free market. They would rather take money they confront to their local politician and regulate their competitors out of business. We don't want to compete with you. We want you to not exist. Either you can sell us your company or we are going to regulate you out of existence. And then we'll buy your company for pennies on the dollar. And then we will set the price for this product in this market, in this demographic. That's not free market. That's called having a monopoly on the market. That's called corporatism, not capitalism. Capitalism is competing with your competitor, not being able to regulate them out of existence. A great example of that here in Baldwin County, Alabama. There is this big real estate tycoon that comes in, Riles Realty. I have no problem saying his name because I fucking hate him. He's a crook. He comes in and he buys a bunch of stuff for pennies on the dollar. He's a slumlord. He will often try to resell it at a very inflated rate with no work done to it. But he comes in one day and decides he wants to build an off-road park in Baldwin County, Alabama. So what he does is he buys a bunch of land. All right, well, some of the land was owned by older widows. One piece of the parcel was owned by a gun range. And he came in, and there was a road, an easement road that existed before Interstate 10. Because Interstate 10 is right there by it. That's how old this easement road to access for these multiple widowed older ladies. And this gun range, that's how they access their property. Their property was landlocked by a river, not a creek, a river, to access their property from the main road. So this is the only road for all of them to access their property. It's an easement road. It's very common if you live in any part of rural America. You're often going to use an easement road down someone else's property to access your property. And the state of Alabama recognizes that, is that a landowner is not allowed to landlock you from your property if they own all the land around you and there's no other way for you to access your property. You have a right to an access point that is designated by that landowner to access your property. Those are called easement roads. All right, well, this guy, Riles Realty, he knows judges, corrupt judges, just want to say that out loud, and corrupt law enforcement officers. And he went around, he wanted all the property. Well, he bought most of it. There was a handful of widows and the gun range that wouldn't sell to him. So what does he do? He was like, okay, well, you can sell to me or I will lock you up in the court system. I will landlock you from your property and I'll lock you up in the court system for long enough. I don't have to win the case, but I will drag it on long enough that you can't afford to keep going to court with me. And then you'll have to sell. And then I'll buy for pennies on the dollar. Or you can sell it to me at this. Well, Alabama is stubborn. A lot of those homeowners were like, good old country boys. What you would expect good old country boys to be. And they're like, we're not going to sell. We're going to fight you in court. Well, it wasn't enough to bully them with a monopoly on the real estate market. So he lost that fight. So then he just uses his corrupt judge. And boy, I hope this judge is listening. I hope this finds him because you're a disgusting sack of meat that the world just doesn't need anymore. Same thing with the law enforcement officers that went around to harass them. So when it wasn't enough, he couldn't bully them out of their property, using monopoly tactics over the real estate market. He locks them up in court. And then he gets a judge to defy Alabama state law. And this is how the judge justified it. Y'all can build a bridge to access your property. Build a bridge over a river. Many of you may not know what that entails. I have worked construction most of my life. And the amount of permits you would pull from the Alabama Department of Environmental Management, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Corps of Engineers, and then Baldwin County. The list goes on and on and on. Then the beach mouse, and then the coastal resources. The list goes on and on and on of getting approval. Then once you get there, you're looking at a $1 million bridge to go over a waterway so you can access your property. So the law would have stood in a constitutional Alabama, one where its senators didn't go and vote for Epstein lists to continue to be confidential, Tupperville and whatever the bitch's name is. We got 2 senators in Alabama. Both of them voted against releasing the Epstein files. We are a disgrace to Alabama and the history of Alabama. And they got judges that won't even uphold Alabama law that allow real estate tycoons to come in here and bully widows out of their property. So the gun range was the range that fought it for the longest. They lost. Judge ruled in the favor of you can build a bridge to your gun range. You have to stop using the easement road. Same thing. Several retired widows, they no longer have access to their property. They can't even get to it. The only thing they could do is build a bridge, $1 million bridge over a waterway to access their property. Over a river, like a real river. I mean, it's not as big as the Mississippi, but it's a river. It's not like just a little creek. It's a river people boat up and down, like it's big. And so they don't have access. So, and they still haven't sold yet. But you know what the RV park is doing? It's allowing people to drive on their property. And during the time of the lawsuit, He would call his sheriff's buddy. That's right. Baldwin County Sheriff's Department. Hope you're listening. You got corrupt law enforcement officers that work for you. He would call them and have them go and harass them. It's a disgrace to law enforcement. It's a disgrace to humanity. You're disgusting for it, and you're no better than the judge who would favor him. And now here's the deal with the judge. You can look this up with Riles Realty, is that judge used Riles Realty to close a lot of his real estate deals that he made money on. Talk about a conflict of interest. But it doesn't matter when you're a judge in Alabama. You're above the law. Try to sue a judge in Alabama. You may get away with it in Colorado and New York, which is probably why liberals are proud of some of the things they did, is because at least they have a means. They have a means to defense against corrupt judges and law enforcement. We don't have that in Alabama. Try to sue a law enforcement officer here in Alabama. It's almost impossible. Let me tell you the type of cases they hear. If a law enforcement officer comes to your house, harasses you, trespasses, shoots your dog, even rapes you during a traffic stop, you may get a lawyer to find it. Your chances are 50-50. The only cases I've heard in Alabama that a lawyer can actually get through the courts for the courts to actually look at and actually criminally punish a law enforcement officer handcuffed a 17-year-old boy and put him on his knees. Put him on his knees and then walked away from him. Pulled out his gun, turned around, shot him in the back. Those are the kind of cases that get heard by the courts and lawyers in Alabama. That's the problem with the MAGA movement. That's the problem with the conservative movement. Law enforcement is not held accountable. And there's law enforcement that flee these other states like Colorado, New York, and other things. And I understand why you flee. Because it's going wildly the other direction. To where now you're no longer protection. It's like the floodgates. But then you come to somewhere like Alabama where it's the opposite. And it's like there needs to be some balance in the world. Law enforcement and judges do not get to act above the law. They are not above the law. Because then you have people like Riles Realty that will use that power of them acting above the law so that he can come in and create a monopoly on real estate. Riles Realty did not earn his fortune. He did not earn those properties. He used scare tactics and fear mongering. He used a monopoly system over people who couldn't afford as much as him legally. And people will call that free market. Conservatives will come out of the woodwork and say, that's capitalism. No, it's stealing. It's theft. If I came to your house with a bunch of people with guns and said, this is mine now, and we'll kill you if you don't give it to me, you would call that theft. It's no different when you use the legal system and law enforcement to do the same thing. It doesn't matter who the people holding the guns are. Using guns to take something from somebody is theft. And big corporations will do this. And it's been no different when it comes to electromedics and Rife machines. We will have big pharmaceutical companies overpower healing devices such as Rife machines and other frequency therapy devices and call them hogwash and snake oil while they sell you a medication that's one molecule different from meth. When you can use one of my machines for it and have better results. Have your same child with the same spirit, character, and mannerisms without putting them on a medication that is one molecule different from meth. But if I say that, I'm going to get raided by a SWAT team. They're going to arrest me and destroy all of my Rife machines and my research. Tell me I'm not allowed to talk about it or research it anymore. You should look up, if you haven't, the original story about Dr. Rife. Dr. Rife created a Rife machine. He used sound and frequency, electromagnetic fields, and plasma to cure cancer. He did it to 14 patients. The federal government raided his lab destroyed all of his research, destroyed all of his equipment and confiscated all of his research, and then told him that if he continued to pursue the research and the development of Rife machines, he would be arrested. He was barred from ever working on it again, and they stripped him of all of his credentials. 100 years later, Hunter Samacool from Electromedics is neighbors with a descendant of Dr. Rife himself. That descendant was researching and developing Rife machines based on the original surviving research from Dr. Rife himself in the 1920s. We partner up and that we start building Rife machines together. We went our separate ways since, and today Hunter Samacool builds his Rife machines based off that research. And they try to stop me at every sense. Everybody in Silicon Valley, they hate me. They just wait for me to start talking. They wait for me to post a video. They try to ban my account. They try to ban my videos. They throttle my videos. They get people, trolls in the comments. They'll have bots, just algorithms into my comments. Anytime I post a video, just saying stuff, just trying to throw people off. And understand there's a reason why. Because I have nothing. Nobody. I work construction to build these. I save money from construction and build these machines. I have nothing. But what I do have is I know how to build these machines. They are scared of that. I have the resources, I have the technology, and I'm not afraid of them. That's what scares them the most. It's because they're like, we can't control him because he is a godly man who has a loving family and a house, and he believes in the Second Amendment. He trains every single day, and he does not care about threats. He does not care about fear mongering. I was an extreme sports athlete. I risked my life for a living for fun. You're damn straight that I am happy to risk it today to help heal people, to find people who are stuck in wheelchairs, use my Rife machine and get them out of wheelchairs. To cure people that modern medicine leaves behind and they have no other choice but to sit at home every single day and lose their life and suffer. You're damn straight I'm not scared to bring that to them. I'm not scared to talk about it. You can show up to my house every single day. You can threaten me. You can throttle my videos, and you can try to make me seem as stupid as you want. It doesn't scare me. And I'm not afraid to look stupid. I'm married. All right. It's part of the qualification of being married. You're going to look stupid every day. Trust me when I say that they are scared of me. They're scared of me getting big. They're scared of my Rife machines getting big and everybody having one and Walmart selling them and insurance company paying for them. And we are fighting for that every single day. And they are scared of it. And the 100 members of Congress that are getting paid by Big Pharma, they're scared of it. They may not be scared of it because they're like, well, we'll just get the next people to pay for it. But Big Pharma is scared of it because Big Pharma knows that as soon as you are using a Rife machine, you're going to be using less of their products. And as a Rife machine gets further developed, you're not going to use any of their products because that's how powerful and versatile the machine is. And it is growing and it gets researched and developed further and further every single day. And I'm telling you, what is sitting behind me right here is the most technologically advanced Rife machine on the market right now. It hits harder, it's more powerful, and it is more capable than any other frequency device on the market. And they know that, and they are scared of that, and they don't want you to find out, and they don't want anybody to find out. And the last thing they want to find out are the insurance companies, because when the insurance companies find out, who do you think they'd rather pay for? They want to take your money and give the least amount back to you. Pharmaceutical companies have them convinced, and they pay off the CEO of the insurance companies of like, hey, get people to keep buying our monthly prescriptions of addictive meth. Don't listen to this guy who sells Rife machines. It's a one-time purchase with no subscriptions. Don't listen to him. Buy our meth every month. But it's coming. And there is not a single thing anybody can do to stop it. That's why we're here. That's why we're passionate about. That's why we do it. You're not going to scare me. You're not going to make me feel stupid enough. There's nothing you can do in this world to make me feel more stupid than my wife makes me feel every day. All right? And I love her to death for it. But that is the reality of being married as a man. All right? I love her to death. She's way smarter than me. And every day she some form or another lets me know it. So don't even think you can come to my comments and scare me away from doing what my life's work is going to be. This is my life's work. This is my passion. I will help people till the day I die, and I promise you I am going to change the world, and I hope I get to do it with your help. So if you want to know more about Rife Machines, please comment, please leave a message me directly. That is a wrap. You can see my tech girl is coming in here to shut off all the video. I really appreciate you guys joining me. I hope you will join me daily on the Talking Rife podcast, and we will